Hello and welcome to the series of lectures on vector spaces. Today's topic of discussion is theorems on some orthonormal sets. As you know, orthonormal sets are the sets of vectors which are well defined with the help of inner product in the vector spaces. So let us see what we are going to discuss today. So it is the set of vectors S consisting of vectors q1, q2 and qm is said to be orthonormal if the inner product of any two of these vectors belonging to S is equal to Kronecker delta Ij. Kronecker delta Ij is a function defined in the manner that it is always 0 for I not equal to j and it is equal to 1 when I equal to j. So a set of vectors is called orthonormal and the two parts 0 and 1. 0 is for ortho and 1 is for normal part. That is why it is known as orthonormal set. In other words, we can say that the members of S must satisfy the conditions that inner product of two vectors ui and uj, or we can say qi and qj is 0 when I is not equal to j, and the norm of this vector ui or any vector belonging to this set qi is always equal to 1. So when the inner product is 0 for two disjoint vectors and the norm of vectors belonging to this set is equal to 1, then the set is known as orthonormal set. This we have already discussed in the previous lectures also. So today we are considering the version of theorems and some results. So it is a fact that the set of orthonormal vectors will never contain a zero vector, because a zero vector satisfies the first condition but it does not satisfy the second condition, that is norm of this is not equal to 1, and hence an orthonormal set will never contain a zero vector. So this particular concept will be used in the next. So every inner product space V which is not equal to 0 space possesses an orthonormal set. Here we want to say that a set containing only 0 vector is also a vector space, and that is why we have imposed a condition on this V that it should not be a 0 space. If it is not a 0 space, then it contains the orthonormal set, or it possesses an orthonormal set compulsorily. So how is it possible? Let us see. So we consider any vector u not equal to 0, then the norm of u will never be 0. So this condition we have taken from the definitions of vector space. The set consisting of this only one element, that is a vector u divided by its norm, that is a unit vector, is the only one vector, is necessarily an orthonormal set, because if we take the inner product of this vector with respect to this vector itself, then we can write this vector with the same vector equal to inner product is equal to 1 upon norm of u, the inner product of u, and u upon norm of u. This we can do with the help of homogeneity property of inner product. So we have used the homogeneity property of inner product space in writing this. We again use the homogeneity property over here for this, because we are dealing with the real vector spaces or real inner product spaces. This homogeneity property will take this norm u outside, and it will be like 1 upon square of norm times inner product of u with u. So inner product of u with u is defined as the square of the norm of a vector. So we can write this equal to 1 upon u norm u square dot norm u square, and these two get cancelled and we get it is equal to 1. So it satisfies the condition of the definition of orthonormal set, and hence we can say that the set consisting only one element is always an orthonormal set, and this also suffices the condition that every inner product space V which is not equal to 0 space possesses an orthonormal set. An orthonormal set means at least one orthonormal set will be there. So this property will be used in the further result. Next we come to the second. We have to prove that the set of orthonormal vectors in an inner product space is linearly independent. So what do we require for proving a set to be linearly independent? That if we could find a combination for which all the coefficients are equal to 0, then we say that the combination yielding the 0 is a linearly independent set of vectors. So let us see what happens. We consider this set denoted by S, Q1, Q2, Qm, so that the inner product of Qi and Qj is 0 and 1 for different values of I and j it is 0, and for similar values of I and j it is 1. So this is the definition we are going to use in the proof of this theorem. Or we can say the inner product of Qi, Qj is 0 when I is not equal to j, and norm of Qi, any vector belonging to this set, equal to 1. So this is the alternative definition of any orthonormal set of vectors. So to prove that the set is linearly independent, it will be sufficient if we could find a combination of all these vectors equal to null set, then all these coefficients are equal to 0. So this is the main definition of linear independence of vectors. So if we could prove that all these vectors are 0, then we are all these constants are 0, then we are able to say that the set Q1, Q2 up to Qm is linearly independent. So let us see how to do it. So we consider that the combination A1 Q1 plus A2 Q2 over to Am Qn is a null vector. Then we invoke the property of inner product by taking Qj not equal to 0, and also we can say that this none of these vectors will be a 0 vector, as we have proved in the previous theorem. An orthonormal set cannot contain 0 vectors, so all these vectors will be non-zero vectors. So there is no need to write this Qj not equal to 0, but for this safety we are writing Qj not equal to 0, and we take the inner product of this 0 vector with Qj, which by definition of inner product space is always a 0 scalar. So if I replace this 0 vector by this left hand side of combination equal to 0, so this linear the inner product of A1 Q1 plus A2 Q2 plus Am Qm comma Qj is 0. So using the definition of linearity property, AU plus BVW equal to AUW plus BVW, means we are using the linearity property of a vector space or the inner product space. So I can write this A1 Q1 comma Qj, A2 Q2 comma Qj, and AJ Qj comma Qj plus so on up to Am Qm comma Qj. This we have written purposefully so as to utilize the definition of an inner product space having the orthonormal character. So in this we can say that the orthonormal vectors having the different denominations Q1 Qj will be 0, Q2 Qj will be 0, but the inner product of Qj will always be equal to 1. Why? Because it is the set of orthonormal vectors. So except this particular term, all the terms will be equal to 0. So what happens? We can say it is equal to Aj times Qj comma Qj inner product equal to 0. This implies Aj times square of norm Qj equal to 0. As you know that the inner product of a vector with itself is equal to the square of the norm, but this Qj is a non-zero vector. This cannot be equal to 0. So when there is a product of two quantities is 0, then at least one of them must be 0. When this is not equal to 0, we have to compromise that this Aj will have to be 0. So this definition we are going to use over here to write that Aj is equal to 0. and writing aj or ai makes no difference, because after all this j is also taking values from 1 to m. So this aj will be 0 for all values of j starting from 1 and ending up to m. So we can say that all the constants in the combination we have taken, a1 q1 a2 q2 am qm, are 0, and hence we can say that the orthonormal set is linearly independent. So this is a very straightforward method anyone can use with the help of some properties of the inner product spaces. But we can also prove this with the help of some contradictions, and it will be more easy to understand. So this will be of this shape. Consider a set of orthonormal vectors S, so that this is equal to usual definition, and this is the alternative statement, mathematical statement we can give for the orthonormal set of vectors. So let these vectors are linearly dependent. We are considering opposite to what we want to prove. So whenever a set is linearly dependent, at least two of these vectors will be scalar multiple of some other vectors. At least one vector will be scalar product of some another vector. So if we consider qi to be the scalar multiple of this qj, where c is not equal to 0, any real number. So what happens if we take inner product of these vectors qi comma qj? I can write qi equal to cqj, which we have considered, and cqj comma qj, the inner product is 0, because we have considered that it is the orthonormal set. So when qi qj is equal to 0 and we have replaced this, we get c qj qj. But as you know, this is the square of norm and it is equal to 0. So what we have got, that c times norm of qi square is equal to 0, and this norm of any orthonormal vector is non-zero. So in case of this product to be 0, the c has to be 0. So this is the contradiction, what we have assumed, that c is not equal to 0. So by this we can say that the c will have to be 0. That means a vector cannot be expressed as the scalar multiple of another vector in that set, and this says that the set S is the linearly independent and not the linearly dependent, which we have considered as a contradiction. So contradiction of a contradiction proves the result what we want actually. So this is the small proof we do with the help of contradiction. Next we come the orthonormal basis. What our past experience says, that the basis is a set of vectors which spans the vector space, and all the vectors contained in that set are linearly independent. So if we could find these two properties in the set of orthonormal vectors, then we can say that it is an orthonormal basis. So what past experience says, being an orthogonal set, a set of orthonormal vector spans a subspace of a given vector space, that is a subset W may be regarded as a linear span of this vector, orthonormal set of vectors. So W is considered as LS. So first condition of a set being the basis is already satisfied over here. What about the second one, that is the linear independence? We have recently proved that a set of orthonormal vector is always linearly independent. So this is the present discussion we have come to this statement, and both these statements are in the support of calling S as an orthonormal basis. So a basis consisting of orthonormal vectors is known as orthonormal basis. So there will be some more theorems on the orthonormal in the coming lectures. So this is theorem 2. If u and v are orthogonal unit vectors, then what is the distance between u and v? Orthogonal unit vectors means their length is equal to 1 or their norm is equal to 1. When the vectors are orthogonal and their norm is 1, they are also known as orthonormal. So this U, the set consisting of these two vectors, is the orthonormal set, and we have to find the distance between U and V. So how to find with the help of inner product space? Let us see. So distance D, U, V is denoted by the norm of U minus V. This is the part of discussions in the Rn, that is the Euclidean space. So norm of this U minus V whole square is equal to the inner product of U minus V with U minus V itself. If I open this with the help of definition of inner product using the linearity property, I can always write U inner product with U minus U inner product V minus V inner product U and plus V inner product V. So inner product of a vector with respect to itself is the norm square, and these are the two inner products having the symmetry property, so that we can write norm U square minus 2 times U inner product of U and V plus norm of V square. And as you know that this is the set of orthonormal vectors, the norm of U and norm of V are 1 and the inner product of U and V is 0. So I can write 1 minus 0, this minus 0 is double, it will not be there, plus 1, so it is equal to 2. So if the set of orthonormal vectors U and V is given to us, the distance between these two vectors will always be equal to 2 units. So square of distance will be 2 units. So I can write norm of square equal to 2. So distance is equal to square root of 2. So this is the theorem we wanted to prove with the help of inner product and the property thereof. Next we come to theorem number 3. Prove that two vectors U and V in a real inner product space are orthogonal if the norm of sum of these vectors is equal to sum of squares of their norms or individual norms. So here we can see that there is a word IFF, if, and it means we have to prove from both the sides. So let us have the parts A and B. Part A will be called if part and part B will be called only if. So meaning of this IFF is if and only if. So we will be dividing it into two parts. So first part is necessary part, or we can call it if part. So let U and V are be two orthogonal vectors in an inner product space V, where we can say that U comma V, the inner product is 0, and U comma U inner product is norm U square. We can write with the help of U plus V norm square equal to inner product of a vector with same vector. So using the linearity property, I can write these four inner products: U inner product U, U inner product V, V inner product U, and V inner product V. So simplifying this, we can write norm U square in place of U comma U. These are the same inner products. We can write 2 times U comma V, and this is the norm V square. So using the orthogonality property, this inner product of U comma V will be 0 because these are two orthogonal vectors, and hence we can say that U plus V norm square equal to sum of these two norm squares. So if we denote this by equation number 1, we will be using it in the other part also. So we can say that if these two are the orthogonal vectors, then the sum of vectors, norm of sum of vectors is equal to sum of the squares of the norms of their individual terms. So this we have used already over here. Next, sufficient part, that is only if part. In this case, we are considering that this square of norm of sum of these two vectors is equal to sum of the individual squares of norms. So this we can write use equation number 1, which we have already denoted in the previous slide, and we can write this equal to norm U square plus norm V square equal to this expression. So in this we can see that these two terms get cancelled and we get 2 times this inner product equal to 0, and we finally get the inner product equal to 0, which says that the vectors are orthogonal, because this is the condition for two vectors to be orthogonal. So with this we can say that the proof is complete. Next is the theorem: if u and v are vectors in a real inner product space having the same norms, then u minus v and u plus v are orthogonal. And for that it will be sufficient to prove that the inner product of u minus v and u plus v is 0. So if we are taking the inner product of these two and using the linearity property, I can always write u inner product u plus u inner product v minus v inner product u and v inner product v. And we further utilize the condition that the norm of u and norm of v is given to be same. So this norm square of u and norm square of v will be cancelled. So, and these are the two inner products having the symmetry property, but they are of opposite sign, so these also will get cancelled. So this we have used the property of inner product, the symmetry, and these are the norms with opposite sign, and but these are the same, we can write it equal to 0. So this proves that u minus v and u plus v are orthogonal. So it is always sufficient to prove that the inner product of two vectors is 0 in case these are orthogonal. Next we come to the theorem number 5, where u and v are vectors given to us in a real inner product space, and we have to prove that u plus v and u minus v are orthogonal. Then the norm of u and norm of v will be same. That is, this theorem is the converse of the previous theorem number 4, where we were given that the norm of u and v are same and these two vectors are orthogonal. So in this particular theorem, we take that the u plus v and u minus v are orthogonal, and we will use the inner product space to express u plus v comma u minus v equal to 0. Orthogonal vectors are always having their inner product equal to 0. So if we use the linearity property on left hand side, what do we get? uv minus vu minus vv. So these are the two inner products having the opposite sign, but they are same because of symmetric property. So these two will be cancelled, and we are left with square of norm of u and minus square of norm of v equal to 0, which implies that norm of u square is equal to norm of v square. And when square of norms are same, we can always say that their norms are equal. There is no loss of generality in writing this norm u equal to norm v. So with this we have proved that when these two vectors, the sum of vectors and difference of two vectors are orthogonal, then their norms will always be. Next we come to a very important theorem which relates the linear algebra or the vector spaces with the properties of orthonormal matrix. So if we are given a matrix U containing u1, u2, un as column vectors, u1, u2, un, and suppose that the columns of U form an orthonormal set, that is all these vectors are orthonormal, then the inverse of this matrix will be equal to transpose of this matrix. This we have to prove. We call such matrix U as the orthonormal matrix, and this is the definition of orthonormal matrix which we study in the theory of matrices, that a matrix is known as orthonormal matrix if its inverse is equal to its transpose. So the given matrix may be expressed in this particular form: the first column, second column, third column, fourth column. A column and rows are denoted by the subscripts u11, u12, u1n. So the first subscript 111 is for row, and this second subscript 111 is for column. So we are given these to be the column vectors. We have taken first vector u1 in the 1 in the column side and 2 in the column side and in the column side, and we have denoted 1, 2, 3, 4 up to n as the rows. So with this we can write this matrix in the expanded form, where uj are the uj is the jth column we have denoted with the help of these elements. Now we have to write the transpose of this matrix, and transpose is the rows are converted into columns and or columns are converted into rows, and these are the transposes of these column vectors, because u was the matrix of column vectors u1 u2 un, so the transpose will always be u1 transpose u2 transpose un transpose, and we have to prove that inverse of that matrix is equal to ut. So if we could prove that ut times u is in a unit matrix, then we will be able to state that the inverse of u matrix u of orthonormal vectors is equal to its transpose. So we use the orthonormality of vectors u1 transpose u1 equal to u1 equal to 1, that is the norm of vectors, and it has already been discussed in previous lectures that we can write the inner product of a vector with respect to itself by writing it in the form of matrices, one row matrix multiplied by a column matrix. Similarly, if I take u2 transpose and multiply it with u1, that is, I take the inner product of u2 with u1, I can get 0, because these are the orthonormal vectors. So if I multiply these columns with these rows with these columns, I can write u1 transpose u1 over here, u1 transpose u2 over here, and so on. So this simple multiplication will give us the matrix in the expanded form like this. So u2 transpose with u1, then u2 transpose with u2, and u2 transpose with un. These are all the members of this second row. And similarly, the last row is constructed with the help of product of this row vector with these column vectors. So these are all combinations or the inner products of vectors u1 to un. So using these two properties, where the similar vectors are there, we will be using 1. Whenever there is difference in the subscript, where we will use 0. So all the leading diagonal elements of this matrix are having the similar subscript on the vectors. So all the diagonal elements will be 1 and remaining elements will be 0. So with this we can say that this is a unit matrix of order n, and this shows that ut times u, that is multiplication of a transpose of a matrix with it, is equal to I, which says that the inverse of u is the transpose of u itself. So similarly, you can prove u ut equal to I